Hello and welcome to the channel 7K Custom Builds. This video is going to be a review video over the Bessemeter pinless moisture meter, specifically the DS500. So without further ado, I'll just get right into it. Okay, so a while back I was in the market for a pinless moisture meter and I came across the Bessemeter moisture meters and I hadn't seen any review videos on it, so I reached out to one of their representatives and we set up an agreement for them to send me this moisture meter. In exchange, I would do a YouTube review video for them. So they did send me this meter for free. However, these are my own thoughts and opinions. I'm not being paid or sponsored by them. The meter came with this nice hard plastic case with foam inside, so it does a good job of protecting it. It came with a 9-volt battery. You guys know what that looks like, so I don't need to show you, but it came with a battery, so that was really nice. And then it also comes with this calibration table, which we'll talk about, and then their user manual, which also has the species guides that you'll need to use the moisture meter. And I calculated 192 wood species, which is going to be way more than I'm ever going to need. So that's awesome to have that variety. But I haven't looked through exactly what species are all included with this, but I'm very positive that's most of the common wood species. Like I know black walnut's in here, a lot of your oaks, ash. There's several variants of pines in here. You get the idea with that. So along with hard and softwood dimensional lumbers, they also have settings for composite and compressed sheet good materials. So that's a good option as well if you're a contractor or doing DIY projects at home. If you've had some water or something in your basement, it would be a good tool for that as well. So talking about the calibration of the moisture meter, so you turn it on. The instructions for calibration are on the back. So you can read through all of this, but basically we need to set the species setting to 0.50, and then we need the numbers to be within those parameters, within 1% of those parameters for the two different settings. So since I'm currently on the 3/4 inch setting, I need to make sure my species is 0.50. It is. So this second button is the species button. You can change that up and down with the toggle arrows. And then to select it, you press the power button again. And we're in the 3/4 inch setting. This sensor plate fits neatly in this groove on the calibration plate. So if I press this down firmly, which is what you're supposed to do according to the directions, we're reading 16.7%. And if you remember, on the 3/4 inch depth setting, we need to be within 1% of 17%. So we're good there. It could be anything from 16 to 18% at 3/4 inch depth, or anywhere from 9.9 to 11.9 on the 1/4 inch depth. So we'll check that next. This button down here shows you how to change your depth of measurement. So I'll press that button, and then to change it, you either simply press that button again, or you can toggle back and forth with the arrows. Either way. Change our depth to 1/4 inch, save it. And we're reading 10.4%, and that is within our parameters. So we're good on both settings. So one thing to keep in mind whenever you're using this moisture meter is it is good practice to always calibrate it and make sure it's functioning properly before you need to use it. So you will have to have this, but you'll always have to have this with this. If you lose this, I'm guessing you could reach out to the company and maybe they could mail you one, but you definitely need this unless somehow you memorize all of these. But other than that, just something to think about. Obviously it fits right in here, so you can keep it in the case so you don't accidentally throw it away. But just something to keep in mind, you definitely always have to have the manual with the moisture meter. Okay, so the buttons on here, we already know where the power button is. The species button is just the one down below it. So you click that, and this piece of wood is Douglas fir. It's an old piece of barnwood, and that number happens to be 0.48. I already had it on that setting, but if I wanted to change it, all you do is toggle these up and down, and then to save it, you click the power button again. And simple as that, it's already reading. So I hold it on here. It's measuring at the 3/4 inch depth, 10.9% moisture content. So as you can see, very quick and easy to use. I mean, there's only a handful of buttons on here, so it's pretty much self-explanatory. It lays out the instructions in here, but honestly, I feel like it's easier if you just kind of play with the buttons. The only button we haven't talked about here is the volume button. Basically, that just gives you a beeping noise, which is feedback when you press the other button. So just simply turn it off or turn it on. Straightforward like that. Okay, so you guys got the picture basically of how this works. We'll do some examples here. So this is just a piece of construction grade pine. Open it up to the back. We're going to call this Western White Pine because it's just your general construction lumber that I bought at Menards. So we'll turn our meter back on. That number was 0.35. Hit our species button. And if you want to skip ahead, if you hold the button, it'll go up by 10s or down by 10s. So that gets you there a little faster, but it doesn't take very long either way. 0.35, select it. So this is measuring at 1/4 inch depth, 9.9%. Change it to the 3/4 inch depth, 12%. So something to think about is obviously the thickness of the materials you're measuring. This, I would find more accuracy using the 3/4 inch setting because this is 1.5 inches. So you want to obviously measure down to about the center of your piece of wood. So this model in particular has both of those options. This retails for $279. They do have two other options. The DS stands for deep and shallow measurements, so it can do both, obviously. They sell individual meters that only do one or the other. They're a little bit cheaper. I believe they're $219 as of this video. This one's $279, but obviously value-wise, this one can do both. So I make a lot of tables, so they are usually anywhere from a little over 1 inch to 1.5 inches once they're milled to their final dimensions. So most of my work is going to be using the 3/4 inch setting, but I do some projects with thinner materials as well. So probably anything that's 3/4 inch or less, you would use the 1/4 inch setting. And obviously this basically works with anything that's a little over 1/4 inch. I don't know how accurate it would be for like 1/8 inch material or anything like that. So I can attest to that. If you're working with really thick stuff like 3-inch slabs, you're only going to penetrate down to 3/4 inch. That's as deep as these pinless meters will go. They can only penetrate so far. I mean, wood is obviously a dense material, so they do as good of a job as they can. Obviously, if you want best, most reliable accuracy, you get those deep hammer pin moisture meters for that. But for my purposes, I don't need that. And I don't like poking holes in my pieces of wood. We're going to do a few more examples so you can see how this works, kind of changing back and forth between different species. Next up, we have a piece of white ash here. This is about 5/8 of an inch thick. I've got their species number located here. It's 0.60. So we'll make sure we input that first. Go to our species button, select it. And since this is less than 3/4 inch material, it's only 5/8 inch, I'm going to use the 1/4 inch depth setting. So, okay, we're good to go. So as long as this part of the sensor is fully contacting the wood, and it's best to use completely flat lumber. Like this has already been planed down, so it's very flat. Rough sawn stuff, it's going to give you inaccurate results, so keep that in mind. But okay, this is fully in contact, holding it down, reading 12.6 moisture content. So we'll check another one here. I've got some black walnut up next. We'll see what that species number is, 0.55. So go to our species number, select. This is about a 3/4 inch piece of black walnut here. So we'll keep the 1/4 inch depth setting on that, measuring 9.2%. I've got another piece of black walnut here. This one's a little bit thicker. It's about 1 inch. So I don't need to change the species because obviously it's the same. At 1/4 inch, it's measuring 7%. And then at 3/4 inches, it's measuring 8.6. So what I would probably do is take the average of the two. So what would that be, like 7.8% roughly? So you get the idea. That's probably how I would do it most accurately when you're kind of at an awkward size like this where you don't know which setting to use. Just take the average of the two and it should get you pretty dang close. So on my particular materials, I think the measurements that I was getting was higher than what I was thinking they were going to be. But that's good. I needed to know the content so I knew where I stood on my projects, because the worst thing you want to have is using wood that you think is dry, but it's actually not. And then they warp or twist and then they ruin your project and you get a bad reputation and so on and so forth. So one thing to keep in mind is when you're going back and forth, like I have different species of wood here, just always remember, if you're getting weird readings or they don't seem right, make sure you have the correct species and make sure you're at the correct depth that you desire for it. All right, so you've got a pretty good idea of how to use this moisture meter now. The user manual does a really good job of giving you instructions on it, but honestly, if you play with it for a few minutes, you'll get pretty comfortable with it. So I can't really speak to the accuracy of this compared to other moisture meters because I don't have one to compare it to. But I did read a review on a retail website for this product. Somebody compared this to one of the Wagner Orion moisture meters. I don't remember which version it was, but they were getting readings within like tenths of a percentage of each other. So Wagner is considered the gold standard. If this is getting readings within a couple of tenths of a degree within that, that's more than good enough for me and my purposes. I think the only way to truly know how accurate these pinless meters are would be to take like those hammer pin moisture meters that reach at least the half the depth of the wood, and then compare the pinless meters to that. But those pin meters, the nice ones, are super expensive, and they leave dents in your wood, and I don't need that for my purposes, and I don't think most people do as well. But if you're in the market for a pinless moisture meter, take a good look at the DS500 from Bessemeter. They're a new company, they're a small business. I'm all about supporting small business, so give them a good hard look. I think you get a lot of bang for your buck with this tool and compared to the other maybe more expensive products that are out there. So yeah, give them a look. But that's all for today's video. Thank you guys for watching and stay tuned for future content.